Crime in Covenants. This is an autoethnographic exploration in the perpetuation of silence. It's done by Beus. My abstract covered a few different variated topics, but I'd like to just briefly explain that in my abstract, the perpetuation of silence is presented as being a research method of why individuals do not feel they should have a voice. The power that is given to a counterpart in a relationship predicated upon the foundation of religious beliefs. Secondly, the relatability of the commitment of marriage and religion as to how it makes individuals feel they have no choice but to stay silenced. Thirdly, the physical and emotional or verbal abuse are neurological programming aspects that our minds have trouble processing completely, thus having lasting effects on an individual that creates a sense of its own spiraling silence for the victim. And finally, referencing the doctoral studies in association with abuse and the effect it has on individuals by creating a sense of duty to keeping silent. It was an incredibly brisk spring Friday morning in the middle of April. I was dressing myself in my favorite running thermals, just like I always did. Utah's weather is always a bit unpredictable, but the temperature in the air that morning seemed as if it was affecting me more somehow. The painful marks on my ribs from punishment of not completing the laundry for my husband, Justin, the night before seemed to be healing more quickly this time than the past several occasions. However, it didn't help the purple and blue hued bruising on my legs. The cool-colored contusions on my body were a result of the dishes being left in the sink for a few hours, as a contemplated consequence of being struck by a baseball bat from about a month prior. The baseball bat was a signature tool that became the quote-unquote regulator in situations that my husband did not like. Despite the strikes from the bat that acted as a reminder of pain I carried physically that morning, I still made sure that I was going to keep my body at a weight that my husband couldn't criticize nor be angry about. Justin was going to be gone on a long weekend fishing trip in the Uintas, and I was taking advantage of the alone time to keep training for the half marathon I had signed up for in June. This was also time to get the house in tip-top shape, ordered and dictated per Justin before working my second job that evening. The moments apart from Justin, like this fishing trip, were something I craved more than anything so that I could feel free for even just a short time frame. The small trips that my husband planned always gave me a tiny bit of space to be a microscopic version of myself and not the fear-driven robot he'd turned me into. There was something alarmingly different about this chilling spring morning, and I'll never forget it. I could sense that a massive storm of emotions and forceful physical contact was going to occur. The regulator played in my mind like a broken record. Every step I took while trying to keep the training mode going was an incredibly uncomfortable physical and mental memory shadowing a soundtrack that wouldn't finish playing. While pushing myself through this mind game and frightened self-action of what items I needed to accomplish when I returned to the house, a terrifying thought of Justin being home early ran into the track playing in my head as I came to a complete stop in the middle of the frost-covered pavement. Should I go back? I thought. I knew the answer was no, but should and could, within the faith that I had practiced at the time, meant nothing in relation to the overall perspective my religion had always represented. His God. The faith that I was raised with and was practicing then was Mormonism. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints believes that marriage is an eternal commitment accompanied by many sacred covenants made when the marriage happens. I married Justin under these covenants, promises, and faith that if I maintained the principles or practices of the religion, all would work out for an eternity. Unfortunately, on the day that Justin and I were married, I could have never imagined the treatment I was going to be required to endure as his partner. During the 7 years that I was legally married to Justin, I thought that my commitments to he and my religion were stronger than his anger management issues. I was very wrong about all of this. Justin is his own person with the ability to choose whatever he wants. He also viewed that I was his own person with whom he could control, use, ridicule, beat, demolish, and silence from the world by way of threats of and actions. This was all a dichotomy of the tug-of-war situation that was being defaulted to by myself. If I stayed silent and allowed the terrible behavior to continue, then I would be able to save my life from the gunpoint threats of death and beatings that were of a more mild nature in comparison to what I knew Justin was capable of. The American Journal of Psychiatry's article, Tug of War, The Domestic Abuse and Misuse of Religion by Dr. Nada L. Stotland states, abusers shape reality for their victims just as parents shape reality for their children. Bolstered by fear, isolation, and occasional demonstrations of love and caring, they construct a reality in which the abused person is defective, incompetent, lazy, careless, ugly, undesirable, promiscuous, stupid, and bad, and is repeatedly punished for these negative attributes. Committed. Justin knew that the world I came from, influenced by my religious practices, wherein that marriage is forever, was a way to keep me feeling guilt-ridden. The guilt built up and over time became the reflection of the many times that Dr. Stotland mentions in her article about how religion makes an individual feel more attached and committed to their counterpart, which then the abusive counterpart uses as a manipulation tactic as order for them to deem the abuse as it being the victim's fault because they are, as stated by Dr. Stotland, and I quote, defective, incompetent, ugly, stupid, etc. Religion was just the tip of the rage iceberg that Justin used against me during disagreements that were almost escalated to the recurring threats of whether or not I was going to be able to keep my life. He often got right in my face and screamed at the top of his lungs how inadequate I was and what a disappointment I was to God and my family. The verbal attacks were just some of what he had decided to use against me through the time we were together as a deflective communication process he used for his own justification. Programming. The pain I suffered in my body, like I mentioned, happening on that cold April morning, was something that I could process and deal with. The verbal attacks and mind games that Justin used towards me are the items that still haunt me even now, daily, hourly, and often in just minutes or split seconds of time. The memories of the pain caused from the verbal damage are the things that I carry with me as a type of subconscious programming, like Dr. Stotland said, programming like a parent, shaping for their reality, abusers shaping reality for their victims. Justin's bloodshot, fiery eyes pierced the fearful corners of my mind as he placed his cold, forceful fingers on my neck, instructing me to keep quiet or else things would continue to get worse. Terrified that I didn't know whether I was going to live through this, I was thinking that things could not possibly be more terrible than the hell I was living in that had become my life. This was my reality. It was not shaped just in my mind, but shaped through actions my now ex-husband did. His behavior and influence to keep the unhealthy actions that were occurring became my reality. I was not able to communicate with certain individuals of male gender for what seemed like an eternity. I guess in a backwards way, I'm still practicing the silence that Justin groomed me to be. My duties, obligations, covenants, commitments, and the type of love I felt for my husband was a sense of what I was supposed to be doing while staying silent. Was the dictated silence for the pure joy that Justin felt when forcing himself on me, into me, and over any of my repetitive no statements I made countless times? She knew that being forced to have sex was wrong, and she often thought about leaving, Miss George said, but her response to that abuse was, "This is my duty as a wife, for better or for worse." And I said, in marriage vows, that I will stick with this. That's by Gleason. I know exactly how Miss George feels. The duty to stay is not a matter of should or could, just as I asked myself that question on the chilling morning in April some years ago. It was more that the sense of duty needs to leave when a victim can develop a sense of self-worth. The silence soon begins to dissipate, and life moves forward with so many opportunities that would not otherwise be there after the commitment Covenant promises are broken with the perpetuation of silence and criminal behavior. Keeping silence. Being forced to do things that wouldn't otherwise be a part of a person's life is communicated well in Voices from the Silent Ranks, a narrative of leaving an abusive military marriage. To reference an accompanying statement in this article, it says, a cultural focus on the superiority of masculine traits and legitimization of violence in conjunction with the constant presence of stressors provides an opportune space for the development of intimate partner violence, IPV, within marriages. That's Kern. Justin's decisions were stemmed from a long list of insecurities, product of environment, mentally, lack of healthy communication through childhood, and a sense of proof his masculinity. Through his thoughts of violence is legitimized evidence that he owned me, and even though he felt that he owned me, it didn't matter what I did to please him. I still had no voice. My voice had been taken away from me through the violence and religious practices. Keeping silent was a way for me to demonstrate my obedience to my God and to Justin. In conclusion, the communication tactic that my ex-husband used as representational of manipulation at its highest level, Justin's demands of my silence were something that was a large source to a criminal problem. All of this existing underneath the covenant marriage while fueling the secrets only kept wounding my heart and soul for longer than I could have ever predicted. Protecting myself from memories of my time in silence is an item that continues to play, just like that same broken record that began those many years ago, skipping, scratching, and screeching, and always on repeat in the perpetuation of silence. Thank you.